thought of buying a franchise or currently own one or many? If so, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Franchise Euphoria, the podcast created and hosted by franchise attorney Josh Brown for the sole purpose of helping people find success through franchising.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Franchise Euphoria, the podcast to help buyers, owners, and expansion-minded businesses find success through franchising. I am doing another tip of the day today. So just me, everybody. I hope that's okay. I'm actually going to try to do a tip of the week that I release each Monday. That's just me. That's just, a few minutes to give you a little bit of insight on franchising and my experiences and just some information to kind of hopefully help you in the process and where you're at in your journey, or where you're at in terms of what you're looking at in the franchise world. So today's tip is titled "Ignorance is Not Bliss." I've had a lot of people contact me recently where it seems to be that and a lot of these people are franchise owners, that when they bought their franchise, they did not take the time, for whatever reason, to have a professional review the agreement, to have an attorney familiar with franchising review the agreement. And now they're in a particular situation with the franchisor where there's things that are contained in the contract that they don't believe are lawful, and they're curious what they can do about it. Well, the reality is that when you sign a franchise contract in certain states, Indiana being one of them, you have a certain period of time in which you can bring a claim. It's called a statute of limitations. And in some instances, if there's language in the agreement and you don't require the franchisor, or they don't remove the language before you sign, when you sign that agreement, if a period of 2 years passes afterwards, you may not be able to bring a claim based on those certain of those contract terms. And so what I've found with a lot of people is that sometimes it'll be 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 years down the road, and there'll be an issue that will arise, and they'll be so frustrated that they want to take action, or at least try to resolve it. And sometimes their hands are tied because they didn't, on the front end, have a professional review the agreement and make sure that it did not include certain language that is not allowed in a franchise agreement. So the idea is that no, ignorance is not bliss. You can't turn a blind eye. It's sort of the buyer's beware mentality. You can't say, oh, well, geez, this is a long document. I didn't read it. I didn't understand it. I never bothered to get an attorney, and use that sort of as a defense or an excuse for being in the situation that you're in. In most instances, that will not work. And so the important lesson here is, like with most things, you really want to take the time on the front end to make sure that the deal that you are signing off on, you fully understand, that you've taken the time and gone through the effort to hire people who are objective, who you can trust, who will give you some guidance through this process. Because oftentimes, if you don't take that proactive approach, you may not be able to bring certain claims later on. So, there's a lot more that obviously goes into all that. But in terms of this particular franchise tip, I just really want to hone in on the concept that ignorance is not bliss. Don't turn a blind eye to your agreements. Don't turn a blind eye to your business. In most instances, it will come back to bite you and likely bite you at the worst time. So be proactive, be smart, do your due diligence on the front end of things so you can save yourself a lot of time, money, and headaches down the road. That's it. And until next time, happy franchising.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.